Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm here today to share with you my process for story number 2 in my 2021 December daily album. I showed you there my little sketched out plan, the page protectors that I'm using, and what I'm showing you now is these really cool stamp and die, or this really cool stamp and die set that I grabbed fairly recently from the stamp market. It just took a little while to get to me because at the time that I ordered it, they weren't shipping to Australia. But I love using tiled alphas in my project. So when I saw that they had this stamp and die set available, I knew that it was something that I would absolutely love, and I absolutely do. So I'm breaking it out here to use to create the title for this page, and this is all about our December 1st box. So in previous years, when my daughter was a toddler, we started having a little Christmas Eve box which had some pajamas and a book and things like that. But as the kids have gotten older, I've realized that it's far better to have this box of festive goodies arriving at the start of December rather than on Christmas Eve, because then the kids have a lot more time to enjoy what's inside. So I've taken photos there of the box filled with goodies, and then a couple of photos of my kids as they were delighting in rifling through and seeing all of the fun and festive bits and pieces. Now, what I'm showing you here is, it's not a new trick. It's just something that I've only recently discovered for placing smaller pieces down onto when you're worried about having them lined up. So what I did was I used my cutting mat, the grid on my cutting mat, to line those pieces up, and then I've just applied a piece of washi tape over the top, flipped it over, put my wet adhesive, my little dots of wet adhesive, and then when I'm pressing it down, I'm only really pressing it down across the top of each of the paper letters, and I'm going to leave it to dry for just a moment so that that wet glue gets a good stick down, and then peel the washi tape up, and I have perfectly placed letters. If you have been with me for a little while, you'll know that this is something that I am a bit of a stickler for, is getting things evenly spaced and nice and straight. So this little tip is a good one for me. Now, I am using one of my little embossed pockets to go into the 2x3 pockets on this page protector that I'm using. This isn't actually one of the ones that I had pre-made and included in my supply video. This is one that I wasn't really happy with any of the pattern papers. They didn't suit what I was going for on this page, so I quickly made another one, and in just a couple of days, I think maybe tomorrow, I am going to have a tutorial going up on how I actually made those little embossed envelopes, if you're interested in that. And I'm just showing you here how off camera I've also created a little tag to go inside that pocket. I did some strip journaling and used a die cut piece that's just a tag topper, just for something a little bit different. And now I've pulled out these green trims from my big bag of coordinating ribbons and trims, and I'm going to try really hard to thread them through the hole. The Rick Rack one went through pretty easily, but this, I actually think it's a type of yarn that I got. I can't think of what it's called. It's got lots of little bits of thread coming off it, and it was really, really hard to get through that hole, but I get there eventually. So while I am fiddling with that, as you can see, I am keeping it quite simple. I've got my 2 4x6 photos in page protectors over on the left hand side, and on the right hand side I'm using this page protector style that is totally new to me. I wasn't really sure how I was going to go, but in my planning for my album I have actually used quite a few of these, and I think it's a nice challenge to get something different happening in my album. So through that middle portion there, which is a 6x2 pocket, I've grabbed out some acetate that I've had in my stash for a really, really, really long time. It's a gold print star, so it's gold on one side, silver on the other. I have used a stitched banner die to punch out some patterned paper, and then that's what my title, December box, is sitting on. And as you can see, to hold those trims in place, I've used my tiny attacher and just attached a couple of staples there. And I'm going to finish that off with a couple of stars from my bowl of tiny stars. The other thing that you can see down in the bottom right hand pocket, the other 2x3 pocket on that page protector, is I have my circle number 2 for story number 2, and I've actually adhered that back to back to the number 3, because when you turn this page over you're going to see story number 3, and I'm going to turn that into a shaker. So I've got the sequins just off to the bottom right there. I've picked a mix that's greens, a couple of different types of green, and there's some white, and I think that's about it, maybe some iridescence in there. So I'm going to turn that into a shaker pocket, and I do that off camera, but you will see it in my finished photos coming up at the end of the video. So I'm using the grid on my cutting mat just to line up that piece there to try and get it as close to center as I possibly can. And I toyed with the idea of adding some embellishments to my black and white photos of the kids, but I don't end up doing that. What I am going to do though is I am going to add some embellishing to the top photo on the left hand side. Oh, but first, forgot about that bit. I am embellishing outside the pocket where that little embossed pocket envelope is. So I've got the envelope. It's a really good snug fit, but just to jazz it up a little bit, I wanted to create just a really small cluster, but to add a little bit more visual interest and a bit of a tactile element for future viewers of this album. I am actually going to adhere these outside the page protector, and because they are going outside the page protector, I need to make sure that the adhesive that I use is nice and strong. So on this flat die cut ephemera piece, I'm using some thick red line tape, and this little Christmas present box came with a foam dot behind it, but I'm not super confident in the long-term adhesiveness of that foam dot, so I'm actually using the foam tape that I have a gigantic, or it was a gigantic roll in my stash, and it is designed to mount pictures to walls, so I know that it is a really, really strong adhesive, and I'm pretty confident that that little picture, that little box there isn't going to go anywhere. Now I'm going to start embellishing that photo on the top of the left hand side of my page. So what I've shown you there, I just grabbed some white tulle, which I had in my stash of products for this project, and I folded it over 4 times, and then I've got this die cut or this punched 1-inch circle, and I held the circle over it, and then I just roughly trimmed around the tulle. So I used that paper die cut, or that paper punched circle as a guide, cut around the tulle, and then pull them apart and put them back together so that so that there was a little bit more difference between the layers, if that makes sense. Then I'm going to layer a couple of word phrases over the top. One of them is just a flat paper embellishment, and in just a moment I will also come in with a puffy phrase from the Rosie Studio Christmas collection that I'm working with. And then I think to finish off, once I've stuck those down, I will come in again with my bowl of gold stars and just add a couple of little gold stars to finish off that cluster. I'm using my favorite adhesive to stick each of the pieces down onto the top of that cluster, but when it comes to adhering the cluster to the photo, I grabbed my Helmar's 450 glue. I just find it's a stronger hold. It dries pretty quickly, and when I am adhering anything fabric or tulle or anything like that, I like to use that Helmar's 450 because it gives me a really good strong hold that gets in between all of the layers, so I know that it's not going to come off. The only downside is I find this glue really, really hard to get out of the bottle, so I have to work pretty hard at it. But I think once I have got that glue on and got that piece down, that is it for this spread. It's quite simple, but still visually really interesting, which is exactly what I'm going for in this album. Of course, at the end, I have got some close-up photos coming. If you are new here, I would love for you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you can join me for all of my upcoming creations. If you've been with me for a while, thank you again so much for your support. It really does mean the world to me. And I would love to hear from you down in the comments below. Any thoughts, any questions? Let me know, what are you working on? Is anything here inspiring you, or is there anything that you would like to see me work with? I would love to hear from you in the comments below. So I will leave it here and say thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.